I'm so delighted to introduce my interview for today with Jake Kleinman Phillips. He is the founder of Touchpoint, a branding studio helping purpose-driven businesses and nonprofits turn their mission into a movement. He is one of our star No BS students, and he's been with me for a few years now. So I have really watched Jake just grow and blossom over the last few years. I'm incredibly proud of all of the work that he's done. He shows up as such a leader in our community, full of energy, open and ready to share his wins, his challenges, to ask questions, to support others. He really is an example of the kind of people that we want in here because we are such a community of givers. So I've been wanting to have Jake on the podcast for a while. I'm really excited to share his story. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Jake. Hello, Jake. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm great. Very much looking forward to our conversation. Jake, why don't we just start with you introducing yourself? Tell us about your business, who you help, and how you help them.
Yeah, so my name's Jacob Kleinman Phillips. I'm the CEO and brand design strategist of Touchpoint Design. We just turned 5 back in February, and we're in the summer now. Heck yeah. And really what I'm all about is I'm purpose driven, at the core. And that's who I like to help is the creative leaders, the purpose driven leaders, whether you're a nonprofit or you're a small business or you're somewhere that is driven for a mission that's bigger than yourself. I'd say my focus is building the brands that are transitioning and transforming your mission into a movement.
Beautifully said. And Jake, a lot of people want to work with purpose driven brands, but I feel like you really embody this. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your missions, your personal missions, how you've been involved in community and supporting others?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like I've definitely had that thought in my head where it's like, is a niche purpose driven? Is that very generic? Is that something that's too vague? Is it not? And I think as I started out, I asked those questions initially. And I think as I started to realize, like, I think when you embrace those things and it's truly authentic, that's when it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. It doesn't matter the terminology. It matters how you show up. And I think being authentic, and I think that reflects me. And so I feel like from my end, I've leaned into that and I've embraced it and I've fully owned it. And I feel like a lot of the actions that I take and how I show up, whether it's showing up in social media, whether it's showing up networking events, whether it's showing up for my audience, whether it's for my clients, they can feel that. It's very, very authentic. And I was just talking to a client last week and we were talking about what makes something successful, or what do you expect in this project? Like, how would we be successful working together? And direct answer was just your personality. And she was reflecting it right back to me. She said, wow, like you've been there since the get-go, you haven't wavered. Like your personality, your energy is what I believe will help this project and make it successful. And so from an exterior standpoint, I believe that. From an interior standpoint, I believe that. And I think growing up for me, if we kind of scroll back, those types of things have always been the ingredients of who I am. And that, it comes from my family. Like my parents, we've always just done the give back projects where, we're doing the, hey, let's go sew these masks to where, COVID hits in 2020. We were the family that put together the initiative that, sewed and donated and passed around 2,200, masks around the community during COVID, because those first 3 weeks were really hard for people. So we grabbed the sewers in the local community, and I'm not a sewer, so you know what? I'm gonna pick them all up and I'm gonna go pass them around, to all the people. And my sister, she came in town, and we're like, hey, we got an extra sewing machine, hop on that, right? And it was just one of those really fun, and I don't know, we just authentically show up. I'm so driven by just being able to help people and make an impact. So I feel like there's so many stories like that. I'd say the other story too is just recently Touchpoint turned 5 in February, and I turned 30 in February. And so does my twin sister. And we paired them all up together, and we just threw a big party, family, friends, clients, people in the community. And it was to raise money for the nonprofit clients that I personally have, and just to give back to the community. And so we raised a lot of money, and all that money went towards them. And the event was to promote them. And we had raffle baskets and tickets and games. And, of course it's celebrating, the milestones for me and my sister and the business. But at the same time, like, our driver is to funnel that. Our fuel is the impact. And so that's kind of how I show up. Give you a little taste.
No, that's exactly what I meant because I know that about you. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people can say that, but they don't back it up. And that's not really who they are. It's just like who they'd like to be. But you're somebody who lives and breathes it. And I think that's why it resonates so powerfully for people. And, just a lesson to our listeners because it's not being different and having a strong brand is not just about the words. It's about the words paired with the action and who you actually are and how you're living it every single day. So love that about you, Jake. Talk to me. We've worked together for quite a while and
Yes, we have.
we've been on quite a journey. And your business is 5 years old. So it was not that old when we met. What did your business look like when we met?
Oh, man.
Can we even remember back that far in your old man, 30-year-old brain?
Yes, we do remember because I feel like a lot during those times. This is what I will say, that those times for me were survival mode. That's the big theme I think for me was no plan, very passive, not understanding what was needed to actually get to where I want to go and where did I really want to go at the time anyway. So there just wasn't a lot of, I guess, idea making and clarity on what did I want out of this thing. And I think early on for me, there was a lot of, I don't think I was able to show up with the right mindset to be able to actually be successful in this industry with what I was trying to build. And I knew almost like the driving thread for me was I knew the impact that the work created for me. And so that always has been the driver for me. It was just shaping it. It was shaping it so it was a healthy balance on my end, healthy balance on the client's end, and it was actually something that was sustainable. So early on, there wasn't a system that was actually built with intention. And throughout the past few years that we've been working together, we've leveled up, not just not having a system, but creating a system that works not just for others, but for me, because it's about my business and it's about how I want to show up and how I want to create impact. So, I've stayed with you and on this program for a long time because, I've had a professor that said, look, when we're not growing anymore, you can leave that job or you can go to the next one, find another one and level up and keep going and you just keep moving. And I haven't left for this specific reason that I'm continuing to grow. I'm leveling up every other week, every other month, every year is something new. We've got it structured and I know you've dialed it in, but you can keep your head up and also down at the same time. That balance to be able to understand where you're trying to go and redirect the ship and then look down and get the busy work down and get to grind and then still keep your head up. I feel like I was so sucked into the work that I couldn't make decisions about my business and what I needed to actually survive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to this idea of just being in this constant state of I'm just doing what I can to get by. Next client, finish, do the project, try to keep the client on the line, which is how I remember it. And also, you were only 27 at the time?
Maybe 26.
26.
Yeah. Listen, age is only a number. But here's the thing. I didn't come from the 20, years of corporate background that a lot of people do. So there is a disadvantage and an advantage all at the same time.
No, that's why you're a unicorn in here because you are, especially when you started, a lot younger than most of the people that join our community. And I really commend you for that because I don't think that a lot of people in their mid 20s their eyes are even open to the idea of really like investing in themselves and learning and wanting to grow, not just professionally, but personally to help the professional. It's just the whole thing that I think 20 somethings are just not even, their awareness isn't even there for.
Right. And even 3-4 years ago, I think times have changed so much, even just with technology and mindsets. And I think there's also age errors that you kind of grow up in these buckets. And so my bucket was, I want to say a year or two after me, anyone that's maybe 28, entirely different mindset than where I'm at. There was just so many things that have changed.
Really? What do you think, what's the difference between you and someone 2 years younger?
I think, well, for me, and I guess if we're getting really detailed here, I think once you started getting iPhones and technology, access almost started to change. I think the way you connected with people changed. Like I was that last era that was able to go find my friend Ryan and go knock up on his door, and hey, is he home? Can we go play hockey out back? And it wasn't texting him, or being social online. I was that last little era that
Mm.
used raw, physical in-person connection as a means for creating community and driving belonging and creating a tribe. And I think, speak to some of the people that are growing up these ages, that's more digital than it is physical. And I think that rewires almost how you show up and how you connect. And look, even in the business world, how you get clients and how you show up authentically and how you almost figure out who you are.
Mm.
How do you figure out who you are only speaking through a screen or not really getting to trial and error things? So I do think there's changes I don't know what the cycle is, but
It's
there are
fast. It's
cycles.
smaller and smaller now.
Yeah.
No, but I would completely agree with that. We could have a whole other conversation and podcast about that. But I will say, yeah, that you actually just connected a lot of dots for me because you are such an offline, in-person kind of person. And you've practically become the mayor of your town, like that people really know who you are. It's part of your strategy, which I think is very good. But you're right, to a group of people who grew up online and are not like used
They're
to
not
being
tuned in. They're
social.
not right, right.
There's not real practiced. I just read an article about getting kids landlines so they can get used to talking on a phone and calling people, and I'm absolutely doing that. So,
I love that.
100%. But anyway, we digress. Okay, so I remember I was telling you at the retreat. I won't tell the whole story, but I was telling you at the retreat the story of our first call when I spoke to you that many years ago. And I remember it being a challenge and it being a real struggle to say, like, yes, I'm going to do this. What do you remember? What made you ultimately say, yeah, I'm going to take this plunge? Besides me making you do it?
No, no. Well, that right. Like if you're like, hey, do you remember back then? No, I probably compartmentalized a lot of those initial feelings. I think it's scary. Any change is scary. Anytime you have to bet on yourself or anytime you have to do something that's uncomfortable, I think that there was enough of a belief that this could change my life, that this could be something that I could lean into. This could help transform where I am right now because I didn't have that solution. I just knew if I kept going the way that I was going with my business and running around in circles, like it felt like a rat race. Like I felt like I didn't have, I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel either. And I knew if I was going to do it this way, like I needed some tools, I needed some strategy, I needed some tactics, I needed some mindset, and I needed potentially a community, which I didn't even realize that was something that was going to help me beyond what it's the glue that tied it all together for me. But there was definitely a moment, and I remember the moment was when you showed up a mirror to me. That was the moment. Oh, I got like chills just thinking about it now, because I remember where I was. I could visually see it, like sitting down right in front of a couch in a room. There was a campfire going. Like it was one of those, like, I'm fully alone by myself and I have to make this decision without, a lot of people probably do it with a partner. Like, hey, hold on, let me get back to you. I got to talk to my partner. Hey, let me call my parents and let's see if this is a good decision. Let's hold on. My sister, she's in the Navy. She's got a rational mind. Let me calculate the numbers for you, right? Like none of that was going to help me make this decision because it involves so much risk. And that risk sometimes is very intangible. And that risk sometimes is really me believing in myself that I can do this. And that was the thing that I think I saw. I think I had a mirror that showed up. You can actually do this. Like you have the tools. And it wasn't any bullshit. It was this is how did you get to the success that you are with the tools you did have, right? That I think is one of the things that I didn't realize. I was doing really, really good and getting these, amazing projects. They weren't sustainable. So I was killing myself. Like the bottom lines weren't profitable. So if I kept it up, I would have just absolutely ripped the rug out from under me. And, I did land face flat, face first. But I'd say a mirror is what it took for me, at least. And it might be
Interesting.
different for others.
Yeah. Okay, so you were getting clients, but they weren't sustainable. What would you say are some of the biggest shifts that you have made since joining us?
Now, I feel like the shifts happened from trial and error, but also because of almost like pivot points. I think they're hindsight shifts rather than I'm going to make this shift, because I think that
I'm
this will.
sure of it.
Maybe they're both, right? Maybe they're both.
I'm
I
sure of it.
feel so. One of the I remember a moment, and maybe we can talk about this story, but it's kind of like eating the garbage. Like there was this moment in time where I didn't really want to say no to clients because I was at the mercy of paying my bills and trying to run a sustainable business and all the things, right? So it was scary for me to say no to clients when I saw that they weren't a bad fit. Well, it only took one bad fit or a couple bad fits, honestly, but this was a really bad fit for me to realize that, oh, okay, that's why you don't take on clients that aren't a good fit. And the story starts where I had a client that, bought the LP, and my LP is called the Brand Ignite. And I remember, we hit it off on the fit call, and there was just great synergy and good chemistry. And honestly, it might have been even hard to see that they were a bad fit. Someone in the restaurant industry, a little bit outside of my niche, but someone that was really motivated. They were the owner. They wanted shit done, right? Very direct. Well, we end up getting on this call, and we're doing our 2-hour interview, 90 minutes. It was just fun. And within the first 15 minutes is when it went downhill from there. And what went downhill was I'm asking questions and I'm digging at this business and the model and trying to really understand and dissect. Because when we're doing branding work, like we're reflecting ingredients that are based on who you are and your story and what you're all about. And this guy did not want to go below surface. He was stuck and he wanted the website built and he could not understand why these questions were important for him to have a website that was actually going to convert and create clients. He just wanted the thing built. So he kind of commoditized the efforts and the value of the process, the value of me as a leader, and it kind of disintegrated the relationship very quickly. And so what ended up happening, we did end up part ways, refunded him back because at the time, it was a learning process for me, but for him, I didn't want to create work for him if I wasn't able to actually generate value for him that was up to my standards as well as what I feel that he would want. So we didn't see the same way, and I think it ended nicely, I'd say. But that's the thing where if you kind of are holding on to your ego and you're kind of blinded and you're at mercy and you really are taking on everything and every client, then you're kind of putting yourself in tough positions. And so that story allowed me to kind of realize, all right, if I am eating the garbage here. Like this sucked. Like, I hate giving refunds. I hate not being able to actually provide the value that I believe my work is, going to create, and also just not being able to help people. At the end of the day, I wanted to help him, his business, and it sucks not being able to be the right partner to help him, do that. But it meant that now I know what the type of clients are that are good fits, ones that believe in the value, see my work, want the process to work and not, argue. There shouldn't be resistance with this. We're showing up as a partnership together. And I think that started to shift things for me and shift how the value that I believed in my own services, would show up, as well as not undercharging anymore, as well as also saying no to things that were in alignment. Because now it's reserving the energy and the process for the clients that are good fits. And so I've really leaned into those good fit clients. You see, purpose driven, left, right, upside down, and that attracts these types of clients for me. So I've really honed in on that niche. And since that shift helped me kind of veer in the right track for me, for sure.
Sometimes it's a bad experience that just we need that lesson so we never do it again. What does it look like when you're leaning into this shift? Tell me about a client that was like the perfect fit, and what did that process look like? Why, and how was it different than this guy?
Okay, so the other side, right? Let's flip the coin. Perfect fit for me is someone that, is it trusted, and they see that right when they hop on the call, they can already tell within the first 2 minutes that our energies are aligned, and we can tell that, ooh, you're a good fit for me. And I've had a recent client, they're actually school, and they're the one way that I know that we're a really good fit, and this is a great kind of example, is because they're a client that shopped around and they did their due diligence and they've talked to a lot of other branding agencies. And at the end of the day, when the dust settled, they still move forward with me, and I know why. And the reason why is because the energy is connecting because they know that partnership is going to drive them to the finish line, and we're both going to be able to see the work, and we're both going to be able to understand that what I do is going to actually help level you guys up, because I understand your story. I can get into the nuances of the empathy side, and I show up as purpose driven, and if your guys' community is purpose driven as a school, we're going to hit it off. So there's definitely alignments, and there's things that I realize, and a lot of the times I feel like I create. Actually, I'll take you to a story for. I don't know if we mentioned names on here, um, but for me, there's a time where I remember presenting the brief to a client on a follow-up call, and they cried. They cried reading it. They said, "Wow, I don't know how you got into my soul. I don't know how you understand what these pieces are. This is exactly who I am." And those are words written on a tangible piece of paper. I mean, if that's what my work can create, is for you to cry and for you to feel that you see yourself and you feel seen and you see yourself in a different way, that's impactful stuff. Those are the types of clients that I feel like align with me perfectly. It allows me to be the best version of myself and how I show up and how we create work for them.
That's so powerful. I love when a client is brought to tears by the work that you've done for them. What does it look like when they have that kind of experience with you just in the LP? What does it look like after that?
So after that, the LP process and the brief already sets the foundation for an amazing project, because we're so aligned. Client can already see themselves. They just can't visualize it yet because the brand hasn't been created. But the conversations of being able to actually extract the right ingredients and then show them on paper what it looks like and what it feels like, and we're kind of speaking towards the verbal identity piece here. They're actually able to visualize it because things are so vivid, and we're storytelling, but we're strategizing, and there's intention, and we're creating such a structure that is flipping it back to them and letting them know, we're going to build this amazing skyscraper for you. This is what it's going to look like and feel like, and this is what it's going to be, and this is the impact, and this is where it's going to go, and it's going to help you get to where you're trying to go. That is what the conversation starts as. And so going into actually executing it, I want to say, like, executing, it's not the easy part. I feel like extracting is the hard part. It's easier because you have so much clarity on what you're creating. And all now you have to do is create the work good enough to be able to actually execute on that vision that you've set for them. And there's a standard, and you know what you're trying to create, and you know when you're there, and you know when you've arrived. And when you know you have arrived, you can explain that to a client, and you can present that to them in a way that they feel that, they see that, and there's energy to that. And so it just starts the project off on such an amazing note. And then it makes it easier, and it feels intentional. It feels clarifying for them to go, oh my God, that's what it looks like. That's me. That's part of the magic, I think, in your process and what you teach. Now it allows us to create better work for the clients and for them to see it better too. Not just pick between a color or a logo or I like this pixel. They're actually able to see why there's intention behind it.
Oh, so well said. Yeah, I think it's not just about the work is better. It's like the work is better plus they're getting that communication more clearly. It's both, because the work can be great, and if the communication isn't there, they don't get it and they pick it apart still.
Right. And it's not this isn't subjective. Like, we're tangibly putting it on paper, checking the boxes off. When all the boxes are checked off, we feel confident in it, and we're just reflecting that back to them. And then they can objectively kind of disconnect the emotion. There's a lot of emotional weight to all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is an emotion. Business can be as personal as it is, business, right? There is an emotional tie to it. When you separate it, you create a gap between it. Now we can all see it as, professionals, and we can all understand where we're trying to get to. So now, does this actually meet, the brief and get you to closer to your business goals? Yes, it does. Or this would help that, or you can make tweaks and adjustments for sure. But, it makes it easier for both
Yeah,
sides.
absolutely. Can you remember maybe a moment, or does a moment come to mind where you thought like, oh, wow, this is actually working?
Does a moment come to mind when this is actually what you're getting? Like, you're tapping into deep stories. I wish I had like a whole year to think through all these stories. I remember. Well, actually, I can explain. That's what I'll do. I'll explain one story. So here's a moment of a story where the dots connected for me, especially towards, let's call it the brand reveal or the magic hour, as you call it, where we're actually presenting the work. Right. I've had a lot of success on the front end. The brand ignite process. It leans into my strengths, the superpowers of empathy, understanding, listening. And now let's go ahead and, create the work and walk them through and present. And there was a client of mine, Loretta Designs, and she and her husband had this business for over 10 years, but it's always just kind of stayed at a certain level. Like they were in a growth phase now, and they came to us, and they had already rebranded once and it didn't really go exactly where it wanted to go or where they thought it needed to go. So they hired us to get them where they actually needed to get guided with strategy, with purpose, with intention. And I remember how important, and this is amazing. This story was all driven by the last 5 minutes of the Brand Ignite interview, the LP process. And it was a story that she dangled in there at the end, and she said, there's this awesome story about my parents where they had passed away, and the one happy memory I have from them was my dad used to put his cigar out into the plant, and his wife used to just absolutely yell at him, "Why would you do that? Stop doing that!" And they just would go back and forth and back and forth. And over time, the gardenia flower grew anyway, and it was beautiful. And that was just an amazing happy memory for her. And she explained this at the end of the interview. And I remember going, that's going to be important later. And I remember wrapping it, putting it in my back pocket, going, all right, if there's any way that we can take a gardenia flower and incorporate that in some way, hidden or not, subconscious, super vivid detail or not. So we did. We're walking through this process, building this brand, executing on the vision for Loretta and her husband. And I remember we're trying to jam this, gardenia flower into their logo, seeing if it fits, and we could not get it to work. It just didn't work. It didn't fit align with the vision. And so I was disappointed there. So we just took a step back, and I remember going, maybe it's not about the actual gardenia flower, but maybe it's the essence of the flower, and it's the essence of the story. And so the way that we were able to flip the angle of how we saw the story was by incorporating it into the user navigation of their website. So when you first land on the website, it's airy, it's light, it's something that has aroma, and the interior design for them, that was their business, was specialized window treatments. And so they had to show visualizations of living rooms and home decor. And so when you first landed there, you felt this magic. This just felt like you were breathing in the aroma in their work. And as you scrolled, you had these other green tones and touches of different hues that were like the foundation of the website. So as you're flowing through this, you're literally walking through the gardenia flower as a result. And once you get to the end, you're grounded by this great dark green. And so you have these hidden accents of their brand with some gold touches and some white, and it's just airy. So the whole navigation was built around that gardenia flower. And that was the 5 minutes of their Brand Ignite LP interview. And that was the moment that was so pivotal to Loretta and her husband actually crying on the phone, brand reveal. And they absolutely loved the brand. They saw it as their solution. That was the only solution that worked for them. There were no other solutions. It was pretty impactful how you get to that brand reveal moment and creating work that's so aligned with the client that they're like, it couldn't be anything else.
Oh my God, that's such an awesome story, Jake. You painted such a great picture of what it looks like to truly hear and understand a client, and then show them using that story why you created the work that you did. Because when you make those lines, I mean, that is literal, but it can look a lot of different ways. When you directly draw those lines, that's the experience I have with every client. This is not what I picture. I get this a lot. This is not what I pictured or imagined. But it's exactly what it should be and what I want, kind of.
Well, and it's kind of like when they ask you for what they want and you go, yeah, I know what you want, but here's what you need. And
Exactly.
So you're kind of taking what they asked for and going, no, this is actually, what helps. And I agree. Listen, not every brand is going to be that straightforward from X equals Y and here it goes, here's the visual. But it turned out into a beautiful solution that was just so eloquent, and it was just it was easy to digest, and it made sense. So if you don't force it, right?
Yeah.
It does need to make sense. When it does, and you have intention, that's when all the dots connect.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And it makes the clients just, to your point, cry and feel so understood and go, of course. And that's why we get them to say yes in one phone call.
Exactly.
So over the years, you have just grown leaps and bounds. Can you think of one major mindset shift that you had to make? Maybe it was a tough one to make, but it's changed things for you.
Yeah, big mindset shifts. There's too many to count. I will point that out. Because again, I thought I was getting tactics and strategy. What I really got was mindset shifts. And there was a moment, yeah, where the moment was I got to go all in. I have to fully surrender. I have to get uncomfortable. And I feel like I've been taking steps towards that. But again, you only get steps to, of success if you're only kind of dipping your toes in. And I think early in the program, as much as I believed that I could do this, I feel like the action that I was taking wasn't 100% I can do this. It was maybe 70% at times I can do this. So my actions weren't even reflecting what I truly believed in my head. And so throughout the program, at one point, and I want to say this is about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the all in moment for me was when I dress up in a chicken suit, holding a radio on the corner of, media PA, absolutely immersing the community in energy, dancing like an idiot, singing to, Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake, walking into businesses left and right, going into the ice cream parlor, going into, the arcade shop, going to the coffee shop. And I have my mom videoing all of this, capturing it. She's like, how should I do it? Do I do it this? It doesn't matter how you do it. I just want you to record it because we're going to edit it later. It doesn't matter how polished it is because this is absolutely ridiculous in the first place. So we're going to do it. And it's funny because that story started from me showing up on social media. And I remember trying to draw engagement, getting the community involved. And I remember there was a challenge where you had to post or get 1,000 comments or likes, something simple. And the people were showing up for me trying to support, but they're also going, well, what are you going to do for us? Well, how about you do this? And how about you do that? And there's all these ridiculous ideas. Well, one of them said, you should wear a chicken suit. And that one apparently had the most likes on it. And there was all these comments. That's a great idea. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, oh, what did I get myself into? Right. But that moment was me showing up. That is an example of me at 60, 70%. I want the support, but I'm not actually going to do the hard thing to get the support. So I actually had to own the all-in mindset where I'm going to do the hard thing and I'm going to fully embrace it. And I don't even care anymore. What do I care for? I don't, am I getting judged? Is it about others? Is it about me? Am I going to fail? Let's lean into failure. Why don't we just fail? And that's our baseline. And so I absolutely leaned into that, showed up, did the chicken suit, mom captured it, friends are in there. Everyone had a blast. I was actually surprised that the energy was that contagious. When you absolutely go out there off a ledge and be your silly, ridiculous self, people almost see that. And I thought that they would negatively react. They then pulled themselves towards that as well. And they were like, well, if he's silly, I'm going to meet him at 50% because that's kind of fun. I might not do what he's doing, but I'm going to show up with him. So that was a moment that I remember absolutely leveled up the mindset for me. That allowed me to jump even higher and quicker, and it unlocked the ability for me to go, well, if I can do that hard thing, what else am I holding back on, right? Is it outreach now? Is it, showing up to network events? Is it putting myself out there to do a TED Talk? None of those were now as hard as showing up in the chicken suit.
Oh my gosh, that was such an amazing moment. We all kind of watched you talk about the idea and then actually do it, and then seeing the video of you doing it. Chef's kiss. Because that ended up becoming content for you that fueled a whole bunch of other content for your authority machine. I mean, it's a story that you can tell about people going all in on their ideas and what's important to them, and you get to walk the walk. Again, like what I was saying before, it's walking the walk in your brand is so important to attracting people who are going to like you for who you are. I felt like that was a great example of that.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking back at it, that was really ridiculous.
It was amazing, though. It's
it's unique. It's unique to my story, and and how I show up. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you had to show up all in, but you had been in this for a while. Like, you had done a lot of things before you. I mean, because people listening to us, they're like, right now, they're thinking a chicken suit. No way. Like, I don't even think they're close to seeing why their version of a chicken suit would be something that they would do, right?
Hmm.
Can you share maybe an aha moment that you had at some point along this journey that made you think, wow, I see it so differently now and I'm not going back?
Well, I can definitely speak towards, I think, one of the bigger ahas. And now that I feel like I've made such waves into the progress of this business for me, it's easy for me to see how this was holding other people that are earlier in the program. And so I can tangibly see that one of the biggest things holding me back was seeing my work as a deliverable and seeing it as an item off, like a line item off the chart, a commodity, comparing it to, something that, you buy. Is it a piece of, is it this coffee? Is it, are you Sound Coffee and I'm Sound Coffee? Or is it something that is more of value based, and it's a transformation, and it's unique. It's a unique solution. And I think I watered down my work, and I was undercharging, and I was watering down. I was looking down on the value that I actually created, and it held me back from actually seeing my work as something that was transformational. I always saw it as, design trends and fancy pixels and something that was pretty. And what I didn't realize was that it was actually that was the ROI on that. And what I'm selling is no longer, I'm not selling design. I'm selling you your dreams and your goals and where you're trying to get to, and that vision that you have for impact, or that vision that you have for that lazy, lazy river in the backyard of your, house, right? That is what we're connecting the dots for. The design is just almost like the byproduct. It's the tool that I'm using to get you there. So I was selling the tool, and that was kind of holding me back from actually almost talking about my work and leaning into it and actually sharing it, and realizing that, selling is hard, but only when you feel like you actually have to sell something. If you're just solving a problem and you're showing up to help someone else, that's an easy thing to lean into, because that's raw, that's authentic, and that's real. And that doesn't feel salesy. That feels authentic. That feels like we're building relationships and we're all in it together. And, we're here. I'm helping you and you're helping me. And so that once I think conquered how to look at the lens of my work differently, it allowed me to see, okay, I'm not held back anymore. I'm looking at this as value. I want to sell value to my clients. And so that has a ceiling that actually that doesn't really have a ceiling at all. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like a lot of people might say that too. Like, my ceiling is wherever I want to put it, and wherever my value and my work, feels that it needs to go, because it's providing the right solution for my clients.
Yeah, that's a powerful shift. The idea that now that you're selling value, there's no limit on what you can charge. How have your prices changed since you joined us and kind of moved over to a value based system?
I mean, I feel like they have absolutely, I mean, if we want to get tangible, I feel like my prices were actually, I think within the three packages, they were roughly around, maybe, honestly, maybe 2,500 to maybe $8,000. And, the bullseye kind of right in the middle of there. And I felt very stuck. Like, I'm not going to lie. I think it was really hard for me to be able to shift the bottom package, because I felt like that was something that I wanted to help people that, couldn't afford, this value, or couldn't afford these things. And I think that anchored me until I was actually able to go, okay, wait a second. I'm actually disservicing those that actually are out there that need this service. And if I want to charge, an undercharged rate, an undervalued work, it actually isn't allowing me to create good work for people. Like, it's kind of it's a lose lose for everybody. So since then, I mean, my prices are at about 8,000 all the way up to about 17,000 right now. And so they're not just doubled. What is that? Triple, quadruple, and there isn't a ceiling on those prices in my head. Those prices are based on what the actual proof that clients are willing to actually pay for in my community, and build on each other. And every time I add a new service offering, or enhance something, or make it more comprehensive, or double down, or learn something hard, that's where I feel even more confident charging those prices. And that's where also I can leverage and continue to increase those prices. So the prices feel comfortable and confident, but they're all, I mean, I just increased one of the prices last week as well. And we did that live on one of our, breakout calls. So the prices are always staying in motion, and they're compared to the action that I do for myself. So if I'm staying in motion on my own betterment and my progress and my accountability, then the business is also growing and leveraging that. It's stuck right there at my hip.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, your prices have quadrupled and then some. And I feel like when I first met you, yeah, it was like, oh, I can't imagine charging much more than this, especially for the people I want to help. And now you're talking about a different price point and you're saying, yeah, and it's just going to keep going, which to me, it's not just the numbers that is so inspiring, but it's the completely different feeling about the numbers that I hear from you.
Yeah, it's definitely a feeling, right? The no, I almost have I feel like I'm disconnected about the numbers and the meaning. I think it's no longer that the numbers don't define my value
Mm-hmm.
and my worth. The numbers are what allows the conversation to meeting. It's allowing the numbers are allowing me to meet the client where they are, and for them
Mm-hmm.
to meet me, and for us to be on the same page. It's kind of like the middleman in a way, but no longer is it the tag that defines my worth of who I am and
Right.
what I'm able to deliver. So there's definitely a more subjective or objective mindset for what
Mm.
numbers actually mean. I mean, the lowest package I sell right now is higher than the biggest package that I ever had in the first place. I mean, that alone is shows the progress of, you know, charging your value and progressing. Yeah.
That's incredible. And also, to your point, you need to charge that much so you can actually deliver what you want to deliver. I mean, you're not doing anyone any service if you're undercharging because you're trying to quote be affordable, but then you aren't making enough money to be able to live. You will be out of business soon and then you won't be able to help anybody. And I'm just saying that to the listeners out there who are the kind of people who are thinking, oh, but I gotta stay affordable. It's like if you aren't able to sustain your business and yourself, and if you're not able to spend the time needed to deliver at a high value, who are you really helping? I think you said that beautifully. I think that needs to be heard by a lot of our listeners out there for sure. Okay, so Jake, so you're one of my veterans. You've seen quite a few iterations of this program at this point. I mean, right? Not we have evolved. Pretty
I mean,
crazy, huh?
you remember the Facebook days, you know,
Yeah.
Pia?
Oh my God. Right. You were in there when we were on Facebook. A small but mighty crew of people that were in there
Yeah.
have been in here since we were on Facebook. What would you say to somebody who's considering joining us but is maybe on the fence about this whole no BS model for their business?
I'd say, I mean, speaking from my own, you know, story and my own perspective, right? I think everyone's different, but for me, I will say I was one that was very skeptical, you know, up front, and for me, I think that was even first joining. That was one thing. That was the thing that was running through my head. Is this going to work for me? You know, is I mean, especially think about, I was the unicorn in a way. You know, young kid doesn't have the backing support of, you know, 10, 20 years in corporate. I mean, this shouldn't work for me. That should not work for me, right? That's a pure example of me being entirely different. And I think the ability for me to actually bet on myself and actually lean into, all right, you know, I'm really good at problem solving and I'm really good at having perseverance and I'm really good at using kindness to my advantage because that's authentically who I am. And I'm really good at figuring it the fuck out, right? That
Mm-hmm.
I knew that if I lean into and tap into my potential, that this could work and this can work. And so I think if you're only gonna play the small game because you don't want to bet on yourself, it probably isn't a good fit for you. You're not gonna you're gonna it's gonna be the program probably won't work for you because you have to do the hard things and you have to take the big action, and that big action is what up levels you, and that absolutely is what drives the change. And there's going to be some hard shit along the way, but that's it. What are we looking for? You know, I was looking for something to drive more impact for my business. It was no longer about it wasn't about how much money I wanted to make or what I needed to charge. It was, no, my bottom line is geared towards the ROI of creating impact and helping others. And that's something that has always driven me. And that's something that's priceless, you know? And if I lean into the tools that I have and the mindset shifts that I can take, and if I bet on myself, I'm going to be successful no matter what. So all I can ask to reflect it back to others that they feel in a similar mindset, that, you know, they're just missing a couple ingredients from a strategy and a tactile standpoint, but they aren't really leaning into the mindset pieces because they are held back and they're stuck, then that's where I think the program will best benefit them. Because the mindset shifts, that's where the most value for me has happened. Aside from all the other benefits of community and, you know, progress and charging higher rates and all the different things. There's so many amazing things. You've done an incredible job.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, Jake. And it's so funny because I interviewed a few people today the interviews that are being published over months, but I interviewed a few people, and it's so funny that all of my more advanced students, like when I ask these questions, they're like all about the mindset stuff. Because in the beginning, it's teach me the tactics, show me the stuff, and we teach those things and we have those scripts and like it's blah 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 blah. But after you're able to implement all of these strategies and put them into your business, it's all mindset and how you are or aren't showing up for yourself and how you are or aren't allowing yourself to keep taking action and growing and all of that. And so I don't think people join for that, but it's just funny. I'm like at the end of this day having all these conversations. That's what everybody is so excited that they got. And I don't think anyone joined for it.
Well, listen, when you hold a mirror up, you actually go, oh, the only thing that was, in my way was me. That's the only thing. And the only way that you can get out of your own way is to change what's happening inside your head and to change what's holding you back. And we don't know that because we're looking for easy answers because we want to stay in the same mindset space because we just want it to work. We just want it to work. We want it to succeed. We don't want to have to do the uncomfortable things, right? I'm sorry, it is uncomfortable, to succeed and to lean into things that are going to help you up level yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and doing those tactical. I mean, honestly, the what to do, it's not that complicated. It's simple but not easy, right? Like we give you what to do. It's simple. It's just not necessarily easy
but it's also more aligned. You can actually, it's simple stuff. Go reach out, to your leads that are in your pipeline. And you're like, what? It was that the whole time? No. Now it's reach out because you have the mindset to know how to reach out and you have the confidence that this actually is going to work. And I do want to help these people. And so you're almost devoting better energy and you're attracting it in the right force. And that's different than feeling stuck, feeling not confident, and then reaching out. Like the actions are the same. The way that you approach it, entirely different.
Yes. Well said. Jake, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah. So, you want to learn how to build brands that move people. You can check out my website, touchpoint-design.com. And I'm hanging out on social media, but you can specifically look at Instagram at jacob.kleinmanphillips.com. Actually, not .com. I guess there's no .com.
There's no, just Jacob.
It's going to put it in the show notes anyway.
Phillips, yes. We'll put it in the show notes. Definitely go check out Jake's stuff. And if you are a purpose-driven company, definitely go check out Jake's stuff because he's the man when it comes to branding purpose-driven companies because he's purpose-driven, as we have heard so much this episode. Thank you so much, Jake, for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure to show you off to the world because you've done just such an awesome job and you're such a leader in our community, and I just appreciate you so much.
I love it. Right back to you, Pia. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.